Tapping in.
Are we live?
You know, we spend Miles an hour now, and we spend days researching topics and spend a whole hour having these very super deep conversations, brother. But for some reason, this last segment of the show is the one that continues to be what the people want us to give them.
Hey, man. Look, ask and you shall receive. We are in this thing to give you what you want. Look, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers.
Wow, wow, whoa.
Kendrick Lamar. 5 years. Y'all know, man. Y'all know what's going on, man. I don't know. It's safe to assume that they already know. We don't really need to intro this one too heavy, man. Everybody was waiting on this one. We finally got it. Sway, did you run to it? Did you chill on it? What happened? How did you take this one in?
Brother, hip hop stopped when this album dropped. The hip hop stopped. Everything stopped. It was a complete moment of silence and anticipation when this album dropped. What rarely do we get a moment like that in hip hop. So I wanted to make it as hip hop as possible. I wanted to make sure that the setting and the scene was right, being around the right people, the right type of aroma in the air, really wanting to have a full immersive experience of this album. Kendrick is one of my favorite rappers. Last time Kendrick dropped an album, I was in Scotland, so it's ironic now that it would drop on a similar type of time. It was a very almost a full circle moment, if you will, for me going into this album. And listen, I did. Thoughts I had, notes I took.
Yo, I'm over here with like bated breath. I'm waiting. I'm the suspense, yo. But I'll give him a little bit. Yo, I took it in a really dope way as well. I actually was in DC and I had just finished a conference. Got a little grant money to investigate why Black folks ain't getting crime victim compensation. When a crime happens to you here in the state of Illinois, you're entitled to compensation, money, moolah, but they ain't giving it up. So we're trying to figure out why. I was in DC on that little mission right there. Finished up this conference. Yeah. Finished up this conference and had 2 hours before my flight, which was not enough time, not nearly enough time at all. But I took my bags, had to check out at 12 p.m., had to check out that thing. So I got my bags with me, didn't care. I'm carrying them the whole 2 hours. Show up to I get in the Uber from the hotel to the museum campus, which is only a few blocks away. So it was dope. So I hop out the Uber. I know where I'm at now. I can see the museum. Incredible building. Super, super fly design. So I hop out. And then I throw the album on, right? So as I'm walking up the lawn to the National African American History Museum, I'm playing the first couple tracks, United in Grief, right? And I don't know if it's a better way to experience this album than walking into the African American History Museum. You know what I'm saying? He's getting into pain. And I think even the way the album is built, he starts at a kind of relatable, systemic, general level and gets real personal as it goes down. So to be listening to that more higher level part of it, walking through the museum, seeing images of some of the great accomplishments and astonishments of Black folks throughout the years, like even sonically, it was an incredible way to take in the album. The high energy of the drum pattern of the first couple songs, like, man, I'm taking it in. As I started to go through the museum, it got deep on me. I took the headphones out at a certain point. You know what I'm saying? It got real deep because it gets there. The museum takes you there, and there's a certain reverence, and I think respect that just like at a certain point, I'm listening to the album. We'll get to how I was feeling about it later, but I was like, all right, let me take it out. Got back to the rest of it after the rest of the museum, which was amazing. We'll do a whole nother segment on that maybe. But got back to the album, finished running through it. And it's deep, man. It's deep to the point of almost being not that enjoyable. But I don't think that maybe not that enjoyable should say that I don't think it's good, because I think it's really good. But I think that might be how I'll start.
You wouldn't be alone in that sentiment. It's hard to really gauge how people are feeling about it. It doesn't seem to have the same type of critical acclaim and just general consensus. Since dropping Section 80, if you ask me, Kendrick has dropped the best of what he can give at each point. Maybe some people can argue that Damn was a step away from that, but that being said, coming into this one, I could see what you mean by this might not necessarily satisfying the whole enjoyable listen palette, but it is extremely impressive. It's extremely impressive. I was fortunate to listen to this around some DJ friends of mine who have incredible sound systems. Just an incredible audio, a curated audio experience. So sitting back, listening to it, and really allowing the music to take in, and those first few tracks, the depth in the sound, it reminded me of Donda. The depth in the sound reminded me of Donda. There's just there's so many layers to the sounds that you're hearing when K-Dot puts this together. So when United in Grieve drops, that drum pattern that starts to kick in, the intro with the piano, it's so theatrical, and it makes you realize that, oh, this man is planning on doing a whole thing with this album. I'm sure the live show is going to be incredible. Think about how some of these songs are going to sound live. That'll be incredible, right? But starting with United in Grief, I think that sets the pace, and I enjoyed how this album started for a better part of the first couple of songs, and then it does take a somewhat of a turn for me.
Yeah, and it takes a turn for me into one of the things I appreciate most about Kendrick is Kendrick has always been able to make music that was as fire to listen to as it is deep. And I think this is the first time where I think he was trying to go so deep that the musical quality of it, he's maybe fitting an extra word in or choosing a word that might not hit the ear because that's what needs to be said, right? And in that way, because I finished listening to it, I'm on the plane, right? I'm sitting there, I'm chilling, and as a Kendrick fan, I could feel myself wanting to like it. You dig me? Like I'm like, okay, this flow, this cadence, I know this flow, you know what I mean? And it just wasn't hitting for me in the way that I wanted it to. And I think that in some ways that's because of the beat selection he chose. There's not a lot of direct hip hop beats on this, even though that Alchemist joint with what's it called? We Cry Together. That beat goes crazy. That whole song is a whole thing. But there's not a lot of straight up hip hop production on it. He leans into the production, I think, like from Damn, that was a little bit more poppier, that stadium sound, a lot of that singing, you know what I mean? And to me, like, I think he's I think he's good at it because he's made songs that I like Yeah, the track 2 on Damn. But it's not it seemed like to me it was all the pockets of Kendrick that I like the least, but that he used to get off such important messages. So I'm conflicted the whole way through listening to it. Um, there were definitely
Damn.
bright spots, but I really think the start of the album was the easiest and the part that I go back to, the songs that I find myself wanting to listen to again. Even
That
what's
was
the Worldwide Steppers? Woo! I messed with that joint. That joint is hard.
Bro, that was well said. that was brilliantly put. If I may compliment how you broke that down. You're so right. It's clearly very. It does want to be able to shoot out a message at the specific content piece of a song, and when it doesn't do that, it does get into the pop aspect of it. Interestingly enough, all these pop features that are on here are features that I would on paper be ecstatic for. Summer Walker, I'm a massive Summer Walker fan. So Summer and Kendrick coming together is super exciting for me. I've been particularly enjoy how that panned out, so to speak. Same thing with Blast and on Die Hard. I like the song. The pairing I'm not too crazy about, but the Sampha. So this Kendrick album, to me, as somebody that has grown up with this from Section 80, interestingly enough, is the most relatable Kendrick album to me from a content perspective. It's the most I've understood, and not even from. So in Good Kid, you envision the movie. In Good Kid, you envision the movie. In To Pimp a Butterfly, you're watching the theatrics of this live performance of this man stripping himself and his history naked. And then you go into Damn, and Damn is a poetry book that won a Pulitzer Prize. It's an introspective poetry book, right? And then you come into this, and it's this man who has found inner peace, who has found inner peace in how conflicted he is with himself through his success, right? So, like, just the concepts that he brings in from a meditative perspective, utilizing Eckhart Tolle, talking about some dope things, talking about dope theories like New Earth theory. These super enlightened concepts of what it means to be able to break through oneself and be in the present, fasting, self beauty off of that rich spirit. So the the mindset is extremely familiar, even in the content. Utilizing Eckhart Tolle, he mentions Oprah in the thing, and you were laughing at me because I said I listened to Oprah, but here it is.
Nah, you got to get your Super Soul Sunday on. Ain't nobody, no hate, no shade at all on the Oprah viewership. Uh, it was consistent. It was consistent. I was surprised by the consistency, but I appreciate that there's a lot of game being given out, apparently. And I think that it is a lot of his success that elevated him to a place where he could start to think about this and gather himself and think about his mental health. But I also think it seems like there's an element of therapy that was definitely instrumental in that he's maybe not pushing, but he's illustrating or at least referencing the ways in which that's helped him understand himself. And it feels I've got a faint theme of like his girl being a big part of that too, and their partnership. I mean, it is the album cover, so I don't know if faint theme is exactly what I mean, but that was there too. I felt like, and it was uncomfortable in a lot of ways, right? And I think in some ways intentionally so. Um, but in some ways, I think it could have benefited sonically. To Pimp a Butterfly covered a lot of content, and I hear a little bit of comparisons between that album and this one. But the jazz element that is all the way through To Pimp a Butterfly holds the concept together in a way that makes it easier to listen to, even if it's a lot to digest. I think this every beat, every choice is what's needed to make the point exactly the way he wants to make it, even if it sacrifices that continuity. And I think that can make it a little bit of ear fatigue. I appreciate that it's a double album because maybe it is easier to listen to one part of it and then the second part of it to take it in pieces. But it is undeniably lyrically, it does make you think. I think it does resonate. I think it puts us in certain situations. That Sampha joint, as you said, that straight no chaser hook, man, that is delivered beautifully. It's and none of it is bad. None of it is bad. Like I grew to like it more with kind of every listen, but it just never got to the point of I'm excited for this and I'm playing this every time I get in the car, no question, the way I felt about Good Kid, the way I felt about To Pimp a Butterfly. So it's a little bit, it's heavy. It's real heavy. Um, and intentionally so, man.
you, I would say that the every time I listen to it more, each time I listen to it again, it definitely gets better. Looking at the comments, speaking of Oprah, Boy Delante says Oprah told me that if I ever live alone, I should only need to buy 13 items at the store. That's a fact. Shout out Big O. Shout out Big O.
Yo, that's fire, low key. That's fire. All right, for sure. I'm sold. Super Soul Sundays. You got another viewer. I'm in there.
Hey man, I'm a part of a book club too. I'm doing all sorts of meditative stuff. Funny enough, I'm actually reading Eckhart Tolle's New Earth as we speak. That's actually part of the book club. So like listening to Kendrick approach that sort of theme, understanding where at least having understanding the inspiration of the content and where that comes from, it was real easy to see why he made certain musical decisions. Right? Each it sounds like each song has its own theme and its own standalone content, and then as it moves to another song, that's the theme. You don't see the same form of continuity that maybe you would have seen in Good Kid, Mad City, or Damn, how that was such it. Even to Pimp a Butterfly, right? It's almost like each song is poignant in this point, poignant in this theme, poignant in this vibe, like that. Granted, you could say Damn was, but Damn had an entire theme as a structure. It was meant to be played either way, which supposedly that's how this album is said to um, be as well. Where you can play it in the back order, and it has a different feel to it, the same way that Damn does. So clearly, Kendrick again is extremely intentional about about how everything is ordered in this sense. So the songs that did hit for me, I find myself recently now trying to learn the words of new songs, new Kendrick stuff, which is always fun to do. It's just like that's part of the lyrical exercise. It's just trying to, get to know the words, and it gets more enjoyable in that way. Um, Out of it's going to be a tough one to rate. It was cool to see Baby came on there on the Savior interlude. Not so crazy about the Savior song. My favorite song out of this is the United Grief is super dope. Father Time featuring Sampa is super, super dope. Rich Spirit is dope. We Cry Together by Taylor Page. How about Taylor Page, son?
Word.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, she's getting her flowers as she should, bro. Like she came with an amazing delivery, really made the song hit. Kendrick is somebody who we know has the range to do two different voices and be both characters on a track. And the choice to include Taylor Page, I think, was one that definitely hit. Um, Definitely a highlight from what I've seen in terms of people relating to it, man. And that's good and bad. You know what I mean? I'm sad so many people can relate to that type of situation, but he does a lot of that on this album, man. He does a lot of that going into understanding the transitions that relatives go through, to understanding and coping with abuse, to getting to know a parent, and on the different levels that you get to know a person. It's a lot. It's mature content for sure. I'm glad it exists. I think there are very specific contexts in which I'll go back to it. But with that said, man, I hope this doesn't mean, because it's such an intentionally deep project, that Kendrick's only gonna do stuff like this from now on. You know what I mean? Like this is really dope, but there's an element of me that still wants to hear Kendrick in hip hop. You know what I mean? That means on features. That means with producers that are making incredible beats. That means sometimes just rapping to show how good he can rap, and not necessarily trying to heal the entire world with all of his raps. But whatever creative space he's in, he makes amazing work. I just hope we get to hear something a little bit. I'm good. You've given it all to us, man. You've given us all the deep stuff. I would be cool with something light on the next one go around. But
Miles wants Kendrick Lamar to be J. Cole. And so
oh,
does
come on,
everybody
that's
else.
not
It's
that's
true.
not true. That's
That
not
is
true.
that's literally what you're asking for. You said I want him to make things that are more toned down, a lot more features,
No,
presence in hip hop. That's Cole.
I see how you could say that, but I don't want him to tone down his, because I think Dot raps a lot better than Cole. So I'm not saying I want him to rap at the level that Cole raps or dumb down his ability to rap. I'm just saying that I think this album is evidence that sometimes your subject matter, even for the greatest, if you're trying to do everything with your subject matter, sometimes you make something that isn't as in fun or doesn't have the same replay value. And now that he's done this, I'm glad we got this. I would like to see Kendrick go towards making the most enjoyable music that he feels like he can make, right? Enjoyable, right? Because I think he can do that amazingly. And I don't think that necessarily sounds like him being Cole, even if I would like for him to do what Cole does. I want him to
That's what I
do,
meant.
yeah, like do a bunch of features, drop Lucy songs, actually drop, albums every couple of years. But I don't want him to be Cole or take on the exact subject matter that Cole takes on. Or, yeah, I don't need him
It
to,
might
yeah.
it might not be subject matter, bro, but like if this is the king and we're saying we want the king to do what this other dude is doing, then who's the king though? Especially after this album. There's a conversation that hip hop is right now just letting the dust settle before they have it. But like after this album, where do we put Cole and Kendrick?
I'll put it like this, right? If Michael Jordan took a year off from basketball to play baseball, now, regardless of what you think of his baseball career, just because Michael Jordan was playing baseball doesn't mean that whoever was still in the NBA playing 82 games was it like, you know what I mean? I'm not saying I want MJ to be like Scotty or Charles Barkley now because they're still in the NBA playing. I'm just saying I just want MJ to go back to the NBA. You know what I'm saying? Stop playing baseball. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's all I'm saying. I,
I think it might be too soon to have that conversation about who's the best, but I'll just say that right now, a lot of people had Cole ready to get blown out of the water. Just I have a lot of people talking trash on Cole's name, smutting his name. But I think that after this, it's still way more closer than people want it to be. Even if you don't like Cole, you can't deny the man's presence in hip hop, his relevance, and his ability to continue to put out things that a lot of people like.
no, no doubt, no doubt. Cole is huge, and Cole's at the top of the game, and at the top of a game that I want to see Kendrick compete more in. Kendrick is just doing his own thing, man. So this is dope. Hard to rate. Uh,
Hard to rate.
so I will rate it amongst Kendrick albums. For me, it is Good Kid, and then To Pimp, and then Overly Dedicated, and then Damn. No, Section 80. This. Damn. No, Damn This. Probably that.
Yeah, I'd say that order too. So if we're putting it on the Kendrick spectrums, it's not our favorite Kendrick album, but we respect the king. I'll give him a good actually 7.5 out of 5. 7.5 7.5 out of 10.
So I was like, yes, give him a 7.5 out of 5. Give him a Kendrick out of 400.
A Kendrick out of 400 is the official review of this album. We giving him one Kendrick out of 400 whatevers.
Big facts. Man, back
We're
in
gonna
this
give him
thing,
a
man.
show. We're
Feels
gonna
good
give
to
him a
be
show.
back.
Shout out to our producer, man, and shout out to Delate jumping into the comments over there. It's good to be back.